Imagine walking into a store, picking up a $100 bill, and the cashier rings it up and charges you $105 for it. You'd probably laugh, put it down, and walk right out the door, right? It makes absolutely no sense. But what if I told you that millions of everyday investors do exactly this in the stock market every single morning without even realizing it? They buy their favorite index funds, thematic ETFs, or dividend funds, thinking they're getting a fair, transparent price, but they are unknowingly paying a massive hidden markup. Or even worse, they panic sell their portfolio and accept a massive discount on what their assets are actually worth. There is a hidden number that Wall Street operates on, a number that most beginners never ever check. And today, we are going to expose it. What's up, guys? I'm Tony, and welcome back to Grow with Tony, where we break down the real mechanics of building wealth so you can stop guessing and start growing. If you want to invest with actual confidence, you're in the right place. As always, I'm just sharing my personal playbook for educational purposes, not providing individual financial advice. Please use your own judgment and do your own research before hitting that buy button. All right, let's get straight into it. When you open your brokerage app, whether it's Robinhood, Vanguard, Fidelity, whatever you use, and you type in the ticker symbol for an ETF, you see a price blinking on the screen. Let's say it says $50. Most people look at that $50, they hit buy, and they go about their day. They assume that $50 is the absolute unquestionable value of that fund, but it's not. That blinking number is just the market price. It is simply the price at which the last two people agreed to make a trade. It's driven entirely by supply and demand in that exact millisecond. But an ETF, an exchange-traded fund, is not a single company. It's a basket of companies. It's a wrapper. So, there is a second, far more important number that dictates what the things inside that basket are actually worth. That number is called the NAV, or net asset value. If you want to master the stock market, you have to understand the gap between these two numbers. So, let's make this incredibly simple. Think of an ETF like a fully assembled toy brick spaceship model. The NAV is the raw cost of all those thousands of individual toy bricks if you bought them directly from the factory floor. You add up the cost of every single plastic piece, and that is your net asset value. The market price, on the other hand, is what someone is willing to pay you for the fully assembled ship on a resale marketplace right at this moment. Now, in a perfectly rational world, the price of the assembled ship on a resale marketplace should be exactly the same as the cost of the raw bricks. If the bricks cost $400, the ship should sell for $400. And most of the time, with massive, highly traded funds like the S&P 500, the market price and the NAV match almost perfectly. But what happens when the market goes completely irrational? What happens when a new blockbuster movie drops, everyone loses their minds, and they all want that spaceship model today? Suddenly, people on a resale marketplace are bidding the price up to $450, $475, $500. In the stock market, when investors get greedy or excited about a specific sector, maybe it's artificial intelligence, maybe it's clean energy, they flood in and buy the ETF regardless of the price. This pushes the market price higher than the NAV. When the market price is higher than the actual value of the assets inside the fund, the ETF is trading at a premium. If you buy an ETF at a 2% premium, you are literally paying $1.02 for a dollar's worth of stocks. You are starting your investment in the red. On the flip side, what happens during a market crash? People panic. They just want out. They hit the sell button on their ETFs, tanking the market price down to $350, even though the raw bricks at the factory are still mathematically worth $400. When the market price falls below the NAV, the ETF is trading at a discount. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're sitting there wondering, Tony, if the price on a resale marketplace goes to $500, but the bricks only cost $400, why wouldn't someone just buy the cheap bricks, build the ship themselves, and sell it on a resale marketplace for a free $100 profit? That is the exact right question to ask. And in the financial world, somebody actually does that. They are the unsung heroes, or really, the ultimate opportunists of the ETF world. They are called Authorized Participants, or APs for short. I like to call them the ETF police. Authorized participants are usually massive institutional banks or market makers. And they have a special legal agreement with the ETF issuer, like Vanguard or BlackRock, that allows them to create and destroy shares of the ETF. Their entire job is to hunt down premiums and discounts and exploit them for risk-free profit. This process is called arbitrage, and it is the mechanical heartbeat of the entire ETF ecosystem. Let's say a hot new tech ETF is trading at a 1% premium. The underlying stocks are worth exactly $100 a share, that's the NAV, but crazed retail investors have pushed the ETF market price up to $101. The authorized participant sees this, and their eyes light up. It's free money. They immediately go into the open market and buy all the underlying tech stocks for $100. They bundle those stocks together, hand them over to the ETF issuer, and in exchange, the issuer hands them newly created, fresh shares of the ETF. The AP then turns around and dumps those new ETF shares onto the stock exchange for $101, pocketing a risk-free $1 profit per share. But here is the genius part. By dumping all those brand new shares onto the open market, they are massively increasing the supply of the ETF. And what happens when supply goes up? The price comes down. They will aggressively keep doing this over and over and over until that $101 market price is beaten back down to exactly $100, perfectly matching the NAV. The premium vanishes, and if the ETF is trading at a discount, let's say it drops to $99, the AP does the exact opposite. They buy the cheap ETF shares on the open market, hand them back to the issuer to be destroyed, and receive the underlying stocks in return. They then sell those stocks for $100, making a $1 profit. Buying the ETF shares creates buying pressure, which pushes the ETF market price back up to $100. Because these massive banks are ruthlessly hunting for pennies, they keep the market price and the NAV glued together. For highly liquid, massive funds, you rarely see a premium or discount larger than a fraction of a percent. The machine works flawlessly. But hold on, if the ETF police are always watching, and they are always stepping in to fix the price for guaranteed profit, how is it possible that investors have historically been wiped out by this hidden number? How does the machine break? To understand that, we have to talk about March 2020. If you were investing during the onset of the global lockdowns, you remember the sheer panic. The stock market was plunging, but something far more terrifying was happening in the fixed income world. The corporate bond market basically completely froze. Investors who held corporate bond ETFs, which are supposed to be relatively safe, income-generating assets, started panicking. They rushed to their brokerages and slammed the sell button on their bond ETFs, desperately trying to get into cash. Because everyone was selling, the market price of these bond ETFs plummeted. Now, normally, the authorized participants would step in, right? They'd say, wow, this bond ETF is trading at a steep discount. Let's buy the ETF, crack it open, and sell the underlying corporate bonds for a profit. But when the APs went to the corporate bond market to sell the underlying bonds, there was nobody there. There were zero buyers. The liquidity of the actual bond market had completely evaporated. Because the underlying assets were utterly impossible to sell, the APs refused to step in. They essentially put their hands up and said, "We aren't doing the arbitrage today. It's too risky." Without the ETF police regulating the price, the ETF market price just fell right through the floor. Major, multi-billion-dollar bond ETFs began trading at massive 5% and sometimes even near 10% discounts to their NAV. People were looking at their screens screaming, "The ETF is broken. It's trading 5% lower than the bonds it holds." But this is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. The ETF wasn't broken at all. The NAV was lying. You see, a fund's net asset value relies on the last traded price of its underlying assets. Because the actual corporate bonds hadn't traded in hours, or sometimes even days, their official prices hadn't been updated. The NAV was essentially a ghost number, pointing to a reality from 3 days ago. The ETF, however, was still trading second by second on the stock exchange. The massive discount wasn't a glitch, it was real-time price discovery. The ETF was accurately reflecting how much those bonds had actually fallen in value, even before the bond market officially admitted it. Here is the tragedy. Millions of beginners logged into their accounts, saw their bond ETFs collapsing faster than the reported NAV, assumed the fund itself was failing, and panic sold at the absolute bottom. They accepted a massive, unnecessary discount. If they had simply understood the mechanics of NAV, they would have known that the gap was a temporary liquidity freeze, not a structural failure of the fund. Within a few weeks, the Federal Reserve stepped in, bond liquidity returned, the APs went back to work, and the discount slammed shut. The price returned to NAV. Those who held survived. Those who sold the discount bled. This brings us to the second scenario where this hidden number will absolutely trap you. And it happens every single day. I call it the time zone trap. Let's say you want to diversify your portfolio and you decide to buy an international ETF. Let's use a Japanese stock market ETF as an example. It's 2:00 p.m. on a Tuesday in New York. You pull up the Japanese ETF on your phone, you see the price is soaring, so you hit buy. But let's stop and think about the mechanics for a second. At 2:00 p.m. in New York, what time is it in Tokyo? It's roughly 3:00 a.m. the next day. The Tokyo Stock Exchange has been closed for hours. This means that the underlying Japanese stocks inside your ETF are completely frozen. They are not trading. Because the underlying stocks aren't moving, the NAV of the ETF is completely frozen too. But the ETF itself is trading live in New York. If some massive global economic news breaks at 2:00 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. investors will aggressively buy that Japanese ETF. The market price will shoot up. But because the NAV is stuck at yesterday's Tokyo closing price, the ETF will immediately show a massive premium. It will look like you are drastically overpaying for the assets. Are you actually overpaying? Well, it's a gamble. What you are actually doing is paying for the expected price of those Japanese stocks when Tokyo finally wakes up and opens for trading hours later. If you buy that ETF at 3:55 p.m. in New York at a steep premium, you are betting that the Japanese market will agree with American optimism the next morning. But if Tokyo opens and the Japanese investors aren't as excited as the Americans were, those underlying stocks will drop. The NAV will adjust downwards, the premium will collapse, and your ETF market price will crater right at the opening bell in New York. You lose money instantly simply because you didn't understand the time zone mismatch. And finally, we have to talk about the niche trap. This is where most yield chasers slowly bleed out their portfolios. If you are buying highly illiquid, niche assets like micro-cap stocks, bank loan ETFs, or junk bond ETFs, the underlying assets are extremely difficult to trade. When an authorized participant has to go into the market to buy or sell a bunch of random illiquid junk bonds to keep the ETF price in line, it costs them a lot of money in transaction fees and wide bid-ask spreads. Because their costs are higher, the APs demand a bigger profit margin to do the arbitrage. They will not step in for a 1-cent discrepancy. They might only step in when the gap reaches 1% or 2%. Because of this, niche ETFs consistently trade at persistent premiums or discounts. A 1.5% premium might just be the normal resting state for a high-yield bond ETF. Why does this matter to you? Imagine you buy into a high-yield dividend ETF because you want that sweet 6% yield. But you buy in on a day when retail investors are excited, and you pay a 2% premium above NAV. A year later, you decide to sell. But it's a slow market day, and the fund is trading at a 2% discount. You bought it plus 2% and sold it minus 2%. You just lost 4% of your total capital to structural friction. You thought you were making 6% in dividends, but the NAV gap silently ate the vast majority of your returns. And your brokerage statement didn't even send you a notification. Over a 10 or 20-year investing horizon, ignoring this friction will absolutely destroy your wealth compounding. So, how do we actually protect ourselves? Now that you have X-ray vision for the ETF market, how do we use this knowledge to our advantage? I have 3 non-negotiable rules for you to follow. Rule number 1, never ever trade in the first 15 minutes or the last 15 minutes of the market day. When the opening bell rings at 9:30 a.m., the underlying stocks in the basket are just waking up. Some haven't even opened for trading yet. The authorized participants are still calculating the true NAV, the spreads are incredibly wide, and the market price can swing violently away from the actual asset value. Let the ETF police do their job. Let the dust settle and wait until at least 9:45 or 10 o'clock a.m. before you buy or sell. Rule number 2, always use limit orders. Never use market orders. When you place a market order, you are telling your broker, I don't care what I pay. Just get me into this fund right this second. If you do that on a thinly traded ETF, you might instantly execute your trade at a 3% premium, completely robbing yourself. A limit order tells your broker, I am willing to pay exactly this price, down to the penny, or I do not want the shares at all. It acts as a hard ceiling to protect you from sudden intraday premiums. Rule number 3, if you are stepping outside the major indices, you must check the receipt. If you are buying the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ 100, you generally don't need to worry about this. But the second you start buying thematic ETFs, international funds, or high-yield bonds, you need to go to the fund provider's website. Vanguard, BlackRock, Invesco, whoever makes the fund. Look up the ticker symbol. There is literally a tab on their page called Premium Discount. It will show you the exact gap at yesterday's close and the 30-day average. If the fund normally trades flat, but today you see it's running at a 1.5% premium, put your wallet away. You are overpaying for the bricks. Wait a few days for the market to calm down and for the premium to revert to the mean. You see, investing isn't just about picking the right assets. It's about understanding the machinery that delivers those assets to your portfolio. The beginners look at the sticker on the outside of the box. The professionals look at the receipt for the items inside. Which brings us to a really important question. I want to know what you guys are actually holding right now. Drop a comment down below. What is the main ETF you are aggressively buying this month? And after watching this, did you go check its NAV gap today? Let's talk about it in the comments because I want to make sure you are actually getting a fair price for your hard-earned money. And if this video fundamentally shifted how you look at the stock market, hit that subscribe button. We don't do generic surface-level fluff on this channel. We break down the actual mechanics of wealth building so you can stay 2 steps ahead of the crowd. Remember, the market doesn't reward the people who follow blindly. It rewards the ones who know exactly how the game is played. I'll see you in the next one.